We are back, 2025. It's a true joy to welcome each and every one of you to the Ivy Football Association dinner. This is a celebration where all 8 Ivy League football programs can unite as one. 8 schools, each honoring their own, but celebrating the ties that bind us all as one community, continuing and deepening the tradition that began 25 years ago. As you look around this room, be reminded of something special. Those fleeting college years, lasting friendships, unforgettable memories, and now lifelong connections across the entire Ivy League. Whether you've been to every dinner since 2000, or if this is your first, you are part of something bigger, a tradition that has lived on through the years because of the shared friendships and experiences in this time of national change and uncertainty. Let's celebrate Ivy League football as the only Division I conference that comes together in this manner. As you toast each other, look around and take a thankful moment. Feel the pride as you celebrate the memories you cherish and to many more years of coming together as one.
Welcome to the 2025 Ivy Football Association dinner. And it's with great pleasure to introduce our honorees. Harvard's Brian Hehir. Princeton University's Frank Vuono. From Columbia University, Nick Leone. From Brown University, Mark Donovan. From the University of Pennsylvania, Coach Kevin Stefanski. From Cornell, Jimmy Pitaro. From Yale University, Coach Dick Jauron. The coach and a man revered by us all in honorary remembrance of Dartmouth's Buddy Teevens. Ladies and gentlemen, at this time, we ask that you honor America and please stand for our national anthem performed by Harvard's Ray Hornblower.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the rampart we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting that our flag was still there, for St. Us that star-spangled banner yet wave, for the land of the free and the home of the brave.
Ladies and gentlemen, to kick things off, please give it up for Yale's own Jack Ford.
That was awesome.
Ladies and gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, I'm Jack Ford, and on behalf of myself, my co-host Chris Berman, the Ivy League Football Association, we want to welcome you all to this event tonight. The Ivy League, as we know, even before its official creation in the 1950s, was founded upon traditions. This event began in 2001. This will be the 12th time we have gathered here for an Ivy Football Association dinner, and it has very quickly become an important part of the fabric of the tradition of the Ivy League. Many of you have been here before, and I think you understand what I mean by that and why it's such a significant event. Those of you who are here for the first time tonight will understand very quickly why this is so very special. It's a celebration. It's a celebration of football. It's a celebration of friendships. It's a celebration of success. And most importantly, it's a celebration of the lives of each of these 8 honorees tonight. Each of these men come from different backgrounds. They have traveled different paths. They have had different successes. But the common bond, the one thing that binds them all together, is their love for Ivy League football and for their teams, their teammates, and their schools. And you'll see tonight, when you learn more about them, why this has been so important and such a formative and transformative time in their lives, the time they spent as an Ivy League football player. So once again, glad you could all join us for this now grand tradition that we created just some 24 years ago. We have a lot to do tonight, so I want to get started. And we decided that a good place to start is to recognize and to thank the 8 head coaches of these Ivy League schools. You know, I have the great good fortune to call the Ivy League games, the Ivy League package for ESPN. Jimmy Pitaro and you folks at ESPN have just done a marvelous job. Robin Harris putting this all together. But ESPN does a fabulous job shining a spotlight on the Ivy League. And it's not looked at as some sort of lower level of football. We get the full ESPN treatment on Friday nights during the fall, and then Saturday for Harvard, Yale. And we're so thankful for what ESPN has done for us. But I frequently say on the air that one of the great things about Ivy League football now is not necessarily the concept of parity, but more important, the concept of quality parity. As all you know, we have 8 good football programs here. We talk about every year how many guys from the Ivy League are on NFL rosters, if you want to use that as a gauge. I think this is the right number, but in the last 5 Super Bowl winners, every one of them has had at least one Ivy League football player on them. So it's an indication just the quality of this game, and clearly this quality parity is a result of the quality of our outstanding head football coaches. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to introduce each of them, ask them to stand, take a bow, take a round of applause from all of you in recognition of the marvelous work that they have done. So we'll start with Brown, Coach James Perry. James, stand if you would, please. From Columbia, his first time here, head coach John Poppy. From Cornell, also his first time here, Coach Dan Swanstrom. From Dartmouth, head coach Sammy McCorkle. From Harvard, also first time as a head coach here, Coach Andrew Orrick. From the University of Pennsylvania, Coach Ray Priori. From Princeton, Coach Bob Serace. And from Yale, head coach Tony Reno. In addition, then, to recognizing the coaches, we also want to take a moment to recognize the athletic directors at our institutions, who all do such an extraordinary job, not only with all of their sports, because the Ivy League has a lot of them, but they do an extraordinary job with Ivy League football, and we're so thankful for what they've done. So recognition, again, ask you to stand, starting with Brown University, M. Grace Calhoun. From Columbia, Peter Pilling. From Cornell, Nikki Moore. From Dartmouth, Mike Harrity. From Harvard, Erin McDermott. From the University of Pennsylvania, Alana Wren. From Princeton, John Mack. And from Yale, Vicky Chun. And I want to add an additional thank you to them, because as I'm sure many of you realize now, up until now, the Ivy football champions have not had an opportunity to contend for a national championship. But due to the hard work of these 8 athletic directors, Robin Harris and her staff, the Student Athlete Advisory Committee of these 8 institutions, starting this coming fall, our champion will indeed have the opportunity to play for a national championship. And we thank them. I also want to recognize, and this is important to us as an organization, and we've been fortunate to have this a couple of times. Shh. Won't take that long, folks, I promise. This is important to us, to have support from our administrations. And I want to note that we are delighted to have and honored to have with us here tonight the president of Brown University. Please welcome, if you would, President Christina Paxson. President Paxson, we're honored to have you here, and especially because it represents the commitment of the administration of these fine schools to the value of college football in general and the value of Ivy League football in particular. So thank you so much for honoring us with your presence. Speaking of honoring, we have a milestone that we want to recognize here. For 30 years, Tim Murphy was the head coach of Harvard University. You know, we tend as a society to gauge things by the numbers. Here's some numbers I want you to take a look at. In those 30 years, Coach Murphy had 10 Ivy League championships, 3 perfect season teams. He is the all-time leader in wins at Harvard, the all-time leader for wins in the history of the Ivy League, tied for the most Ivy League championships during the course of his career. With all of those numbers, as impressive as they are, and I've talked with Coach Murphy, and I'm sure he would say this, as important as that is, he's a competitor. You've been around Coach Murphy on the sideline? You know what I'm talking about. But as impressive as those numbers are, he will tell you what was most significant to him in those 30 years was the ability that he had to interact and impact the lives of so many young men at Harvard. And he'll tell you the ability that they had to impact his life. Tim Murphy is a legend, not just at Harvard, but in the entire Ivy League, in the country. And I strongly suspect that very soon we'll also have the opportunity to introduce him as the Ivy League's next induction into the College Football Hall of Fame. We offer our congratulations for this extraordinary career and extraordinary life. Ladies and gentlemen, Coach Tim Murphy. All right, recognizing championships. Since we do this every other year, it gives us the opportunity to bring up the last two Ivy champion coaches so we can recognize their accomplishments. Interesting, until 2 years ago, only 4 times in the history of the Ivy League. Our first championship was officially given in 1956. Only 4 times had there been a tie, 3 championships. The last 2, we have had 3 champions. Once again, attesting to what we talked about before, the quality of the parity in this league. So, I'm going to ask the head coaches of the 2023 championship teams. They were Dartmouth, Harvard, and Yale. Ask the head coaches to come up. Coaches, can I ask you to run up here for a second? We get a shot with the championship trophy. So Sammy McCorkle, and Coach Murphy, this is going to be probably your last official function as a Harvard coach. And Coach Tony Reno. Gentlemen, come on up here. Somebody's supposed to be holding this. It's not going to be me. All right. Coach, I stand right in front of this and face out with this behind you, okay? And get a shot from them from the front. The 2023 Ivy League champions. Next, ladies and gentlemen, the 2024 Ivy League champions. After 63 years, Columbia University. Head coach John Poppy. Dartmouth University, head coach Sammy McCorkle. And Harvard University, head coach Andrew Orrick. John, come on up here. Sammy, where's Andy? Just stand in front of this so you can see that. Once again, congratulations to the 2024 Ivy League champions. One quick note that I should have mentioned before. Ray Hornblower performed Star Spangled Banner for us. And what a great illustration of the ability of Ivy League football players to do so much with their life. Ray Hornblower, an internationally renowned opera singer who was a first-team All-Ivy running back and perhaps the fastest guy in the Ivy League in the 60s when he played. So a round of applause once again for Ray Hornblower. So I've had the great good fortune of emceeing this since we started in 2021, and a few years ago it got even better, because I got to share it with one of the good guys, not just in the sports business, but in the world. and somebody who we're delighted to have with us tonight as part of our evening. Please welcome, I still believe is and will always be the face and the voice of ESPN, Chris Berman.
Thank you very much, Jack. Great to be with you. You've come a long way since the Model T. You really have. And Ray Hornblower, would I have a great time with you as a nickname when you sing the national anthem? Congrats to the tri-champs the last 3 years, and Harvard and Dartmouth both times, Yale. And I know you guys just got up, but speaking as a Brown man, everybody from Columbia get up again, because get up again. I mean, it's Columbia, won the Ivy League first time since '61. I've been asked, did you cover that Columbia team in 1961? And then I said, well, I was alive. And then I was asked, well, you must have covered Sid Luckman. And then, no. Lou Gehrig, no. All right, I covered Alexander Hamilton, all right? That's a long time ago. At any rate, congratulations, John, and the Lions. Rarely in this room, in one room, have we seen so many tuxes not rented. I mean, I guess we've done okay, some of us. And if the ladies would just pardon me for a minute, but as I look around, I will say, all right, I'll do it this way. If BS were snow, this room would be a blizzard, all right? One more note on the Ivy League being able, after all these years, to compete for a national championship. And I know Murray, who's going to come up here later to represent Coach Teevens, and I may have some of my facts wrong, but I was in high school, I remember this pretty clearly. That great Dartmouth team of 1970, which I think had 6 shutouts, obviously 9-0, ended up 14th in the country. That's like the whole country, you know, and won the Lambert Trophy, which was symbolic of the best team in the East, including Penn State and Pitt and maybe BC and you know, Syracuse, et cetera. And if I have it wrong, Murray, tell me later, but they were invited to play in the Gator Bowl in 1970, okay? So some of you may not know this story. Now, the Gator Bowl was the number 5 bowl then. They had the 4 of them, and then that was 5. And the Ivy League presidents, to my understanding, had an emergency meeting because this had never happened, and it wasn't going to happen again, okay? And in their wisdom, they said, no, you can't go. So 50 plus years later, you guys got together and figured it out. So way to go. And that goes to Robin Harris and all the presidents, including our president, President Paxton. So sometimes we're slow learners, even in the Ivy League. Speaking of commissioners, I'm just going to introduce a few. I can't even see with the lights on, but Robin got it done, and this fella has certainly got it done as commissioner. I believe with us tonight is Commissioner Roger Goodell, his wife Jane. I think Roger runs the NFL, okay? Are you here? Well, there you are. Good to be with you. I'll try to hurry it up, all right? You know that's impossible. A lot of folks here to honor Frank. Not sure why, but they are. We love you. You know that, Frank. Phil Sims in here? Is Phil? Where's Phil? Boomer Esiason in here? I mean, we got quarterbacks here. And I know I would trot him out every 4 days. I know Ronnie Darling is here. Where, right? There you are. Fitzy, you can't miss the beard. I know you're over there. Ryan Fitzpatrick, winner a couple years ago, Harvard. And Jay Fiedler on the roof. I know you're always here. Where's Jay? We could go on, but we're hungry. So why don't we get started, and I turn it back to my compatriot, Jack Ford. It's great to be with everybody tonight.
Boomer will be back after dinner to do some of the introductions. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to go through 3 of the introductions now. Then we'll have an opportunity to enjoy dinner, and then we'll come back to wrap up here. So we are going to start. These are random, by the way, because the Ivy League and the football schools, being who they are, every year for the 24 years that I've been involved with this, after it's over, somebody will come up and say, how come we were last? Or even they'll say, how come we were 4th? So we go back and forth, alphabetical, we toss coins in the air, and this is going to be a completely random selection here. So please don't give us any hard time afterwards. We're going to start from Harvard University, class of 1975, Brian Hehir. I've had the good fortune to know Brian for a lot of years. He played a couple of years after me, and I've learned a lot about him. Learned a lot about him as a football player, as a leader since. What I can say is, some young men show up at a college or a university, and right away, you just have a sense that this person is a leader. And that's what Brian Hehir is. He was an outstanding student and athlete in high school on Long Island. He got to Harvard, and the Harvard coaches recognized these essential qualities of a leader: his selflessness, his willing to do what's best for the team. They found they could move him all over the place on the offensive line, and he would produce. And then the greatest testimony you could have as a football player at Harvard is that coming into his senior season, his teammates recognized that selflessness and that devotion to the team, and they voted him their captain for his senior year. Brian Hehir then just led that 1974 team to an Ivy League championship, the first for Harvard coach Joe Restic. Brian went on to have an extraordinarily successful business career, not surprising, given the leadership that he had, ultimately culminating in being the co-head of global equity capital markets, the vice chairman of investment banking at Merrill Lynch. Since he has stepped away from that, he's devoted his time, his resources to community involvements, university involvements, philanthropic involvements, but he has never strayed far away at all from Harvard and Harvard football. Led Harvard football, the Friends of Harvard Football, I believe it's called, through a period, the last 30 years that coincided with Coach Tim Murphy. And clearly, with Harvard's great football tradition, those 30 years, the halcyon years. You guys are all from the Ivy League? Dartmouth guys, do you recognize the word halcyon? You good with that? I'm sorry. You can't help yourself sometimes. But it was Brian who led so many of these devoted ex-Harvard football players to create the momentum that allowed Coach Tim Murphy to have the legendary career that he did. So throughout the course of his life, Harvard athletics, Harvard University, the business world, whenever they were looking for a leader, they found it in Brian Hehir. Let's take a look.
When I hear Harvard, there's so many other things that you could think about. I actually don't say Harvard football right away. I really say Harvard opportunity. It gave me the opportunity to continue to play football. It gave me the opportunity to have a different kind of career than I ever thought I was going to have. It gave me the opportunity to meet some incredible people. I was mentored by some incredible people. So I look at it as sort of opportunity and how life-changing it was for me.
At Harvard, the tradition for football is a somewhat unique one. A single captain. As a tremendous competitor, a leader by example, Brian Hehir was that guy. When I arrived at Harvard as a new coach in December of 1993, Brian Hehir was one of the first persons I met with. As a former captain, extremely successful business leader, and the new chairman of the Friends of Harvard Football. He was absolutely critical in helping us to raise money, to physically recruit the entire country, and to broaden our outreach to alumni.
Brian was achingly smart. He knew everything there was to know about the market. His in-depth knowledge of it was head and shoulders above anybody else on the team. So when Brian said something, you listened. When he had something in his sights, he pursued it. The good news was he was virtually always right. So if he was going down a path, you were very happy to follow him. The second bit of that good news is when he focused on something, it was almost always successful. So Brian, between his can-do attitude and his just native intelligence, was somebody who kind of stood out in the room.
The team that you put together to help you build the Friends of Harvard football infrastructure. Now, yeah, labor of love. You out, it's achieve your ultimate goal with being to run these very large alumni events, a dozen of them across the country every single year, and it does drive financial support. That's MVP caliber types of play or all of his IB championships, because those championships would not have occurred without the platform you put together for our.
Well, I appreciate it. Thank you. I think it's a smaller part, but it was a part.
You see, you're just unlocked here.
I think players and coaches made a difference. I think there was some good university support over the years. I think that, over time, you aren't successful without that. So that has to be a part of it, which is why you having a relationship with the dean and the president of the university is important.
Right.
Make sure that voices are heard.
So part of what Brian did for the Friends of Football was he took us on the road, and he and two of his buddies in New York City said, let's sponsor a dinner in New York City and see who comes. And I think the first year 30 guys came, and it was a good dinner. And now we still run that dinner, and we get 130 to 150 people. And it's a huge fundraiser for us, and it gets Coach Murphy on the road, now Coach Ulrich on the road. And we've also replicated that in Los Angeles and San Francisco, Chicago, in Texas, and Florida. So Brian was thinking outside the box from day one. And that's probably how he ran the companies that he ran.
Part of it has been, I have been the beneficiary of extremely great mentorship. And I have had people who have been sort of that invisible hand of Adam Smith, sort of guiding me along the way to make some decisions. And there were people like my high school football coach and athletic director, people like Charlie Egan, who was, very much a person I turned to when I was graduating. Merrill Lynch early on, I had, the mentorship of some very talented people on the investment banking side who took an interest in my career and put me in positions to succeed. And that motivated me in turn to be able to do the same thing for others.
Ladies and gentlemen, Harvard University, the class of 1975, Brian Hehir.
Thank you. Tonight is a very special evening, and my sincere thanks to the Ivy Football Association for continuing to sponsor this event. It is my honor and a privilege to be a part of the Ivy Football Association class of 2025 honorees. My congratulations to all the honorees. Your accomplishments on and off the field are remarkable and demonstrate the Ivy League commitment and focus on student athletes. This commitment and focus is something we should all treasure. Ivy League football is a unique experience. It creates a lifetime of friendships and opportunities. I'm humbled to receive this honor, as it is a strong reminder that any success I have achieved in life is the direct result of the unconditional love and incredible support of my family, friends, and colleagues. My family has been with me every step of my journey, always there to help me along the way. I would not be here without them. I am grateful to have incredible friends who always show up when I need them most, and I have needed them on many occasions. I've also been blessed to have mentors and role models to learn from and to aspire and emulate. My relationships with folks like my high school football coach, Coach Tim Murphy, and at Merrill Lynch, Dan Tully and Jerry Kenny, each had a profound influence and impact on my life. Lastly, I've had the opportunity to work with incredibly talented and highly motivated people who made me better every day. Building the equity capital markets business at Merrill Lynch was truly a team effort, and we had a phenomenal team. As I said in the video, my time with the Friends of Harvard Football was a labor of love. Our success was built on the foundation that was created by Tom Stevenson, Joe O'Donnell, and others, and through the tireless efforts of many football alum, and inspired by the leadership of Coach Murphy, the Friends became a vibrant organization connecting the Harvard football community. Going forward, I am confident that Ian Hu and his team will continue to meet the challenges of the evolving intercollegiate sports landscape. In closing, I would like to share a story I think many of you will appreciate. As a sophomore, I spent most of the year on the scout team. As a group, we decided we should have a nickname, and we called ourselves the Sooners. At that time, Oklahoma was ranked first or second in the polls, and the coaching staff embraced the Sooners name for the scout team. They were impressed with our enthusiasm. What they did not realize was that we had adopted the Sooners name to reflect our goal. The sooner we get out of here, the better. Thank you very much.
Next, from Princeton University, the class of 1978, Frank Vuono. Here's what I've learned about talking about Frank to other Princeton football folks, and that is that you'd be hard-pressed, and you'll get this sense from the video, you'd be hard-pressed to find somebody who contributed more to his Princeton team, who benefited more from his time as a Princeton football player, and who has given more back to Princeton football than Frank Vuono. Not surprisingly, he then took those leadership qualities that were so apparent when he was a Princeton football player and allowed him to become a leader and an innovator in the world of sports marketing, whose experience has helped set today's marketing standard in professional sports and entertainment. Indeed, among his many successes and achievements, just recently, he was named one of only 6 members of the 2025 class of the prestigious Sports Business Journal's Pioneers and Innovators in Sports Business. A leader when he was a player, a leader in the professional world, and indeed a forever devoted son of Princeton football. Let's look.
You know, Coach Cass, I called him Coach his whole life. He was real important to me throughout my college days and afterwards for, almost 50 years. Really planted the seed with me that I really wanted to go to Princeton. He helped me through my days here. And then afterwards, we stayed in touch constantly, and he hired me to work with him when he was the head of the National Football Foundation College Football Hall of Fame. Just an incredible man.
You guys have a lot to cheer about in our football career. But Frank would bring us together before every game and do the how you all feel and cheer.
Yeah.
I think a lot of us said not too good. We faked it all very well.
Started a luncheon tradition for all our 11 roommates and some basketball players.
And we started it almost 45 years ago, and surgeons and captains of industry hasn't missed a luncheon in almost 45 years. That's the kind of a bond that he's helped instill and enforce on all of us. It's a wonderful thing. Listen, we're together for 55 something years, whatever it is now, because of this guy. Yeah. Right. He's been a leader his whole life. He just draws people in, makes it fun, and we all owe a lot to our relationship with you.
I get the job, and we do a PFA board meeting. I knew you because as a player, you were part of that success. I knew your background and what it means from somebody that's on our board that knows sports inside and out.
So what I did for a living. So if I'm going to direct it anywhere, where am I going to direct it? I'm going to direct it here. Where I live and breathe orange and black. So
he's the godfather of Princeton football, and that moniker sticks if you know Frank at all. It's about family. You're going to hear this probably more than once. What he cares so deeply about the program, about the players, about his friends and family, that he's an embodiment of what a Princeton Tiger is and should be and always will be.
During our football days, he did not, start immediately. He kept working at it, but once even when he wasn't a starter, he was the chief cheerleader. He's the guy who would lift you up when you were down. He would physically lift you up when you were down, and he would be the first there to cheer on anyone's accomplishment.
I got to know Paul as just being just a brilliant mind and just a great person, somebody I really looked up to. And I guess he liked me too, fortunately, because he really became a mentor of mine.
Frank's ideas resonated with me because they were a sensible blend of business and sport, of marketing and marketing a game and marketing organizations, sponsors, advertisers who go with the game. But there was always a balance in what Frank did. He never lost sight of the fact that the NFL was about football and about athletes and about fans, but he also could bring to bear the traditional wisdom and learning of a marketing person.
One of the things that I think we're all proud of is we were kind of one of the first companies that delved into naming rights. So because of Frank's relationship with the 49ers when he was at the NFL and specifically Eddie DeBartolo, we talked to them about having a naming rights deal on their stadium. So Candlesticks Park all of a sudden become 3Com Stadium. And to say one thing about being a partner, and it's one thing about being a lifetime brother. And Frank Vuono is my lifetime brother.
So one of the things I'm most proud of is this field is called Powers Field, and that's through my association with my teammate, Bill Powers. He came through with a huge donation, our friendship, and my ability to get him re-engaged. And looking back on it, I volunteered to pick him up at Newark Airport to take him to a dinner in New York City, and Bill says, that's the most expensive taxi ride he ever had. I'm so fortunate coming back here. It reminds me of the challenge of the academics and the athletics and so on, and it's that kind of place. They encourage you to thrive. They encourage you to get to know people from not only all over the country, but from all over the world. And every time I come back here, I think of those things and how fortunate I was to attend this great place.
From Princeton, Frank Vuono.
Thanks a lot, everybody. Thank you very much. They told me I have 3 minutes. I'm not going to make it. Sorry, but I'll make it as quick as I could. It's such a great night, isn't it? I mean, I have a saying that my close friends know about. I say, live life every day. With what's going on out there, you have to celebrate these moments. You have to celebrate nights like tonight. So I'm really humbled and I'm really honored to be here.
We got a common bond. This is really the epitome of how you live life every day. From when I was first notified I was being honored, the Princeton guys all asked me about my speech. I think they were really worried for 2 reasons. Probably more than that, but the first reason is because my language can sometimes be a little salty. So, second is they were really worried that I would start telling some stories about the crazy experiences we had at Princeton. And I mean, can you imagine we had a pub on campus and we were only 18, you only had to be 18 years old to drink? I mean, I was on probation from the first day I was there. I set the record for probations. They had to invent probations for me. So, in fact, when I go back for reunions, I'm still limited to 2 beers. So. And by the way, guys, did you really think I was going to tell the story of Sonia Sotomayor here? So they were so concerned about my speech that Steve Simcox, who's the perennial president of Princeton Football Association, sent me a copy of Jason Garrett's speech from a couple of years ago. And, I watched it and I said to Steve, I go, okay, so the guy was the coach of the Dallas Cowboys. He's a national broadcaster on Sunday night football games. Yeah, I could do a speech like him, sure, yeah. Let me get to my thank yous. I'm going to leave my family to last because I'll get all choked up about that. First, Chris Berman, who I've been friendly with for many years, a true Buffalo Bills fan. Go Bills. He announced Brown games while I was playing. And Chris, I went back and I checked every record and every tape, and you never said he could go all the way about me. Never did. Jack Ford, thanks for the intro. John Feinstein in his book said that you're the mayor of the Ivy League. You saw the film, they said I'm the godfather. There's a tradition of mayors and godfathers, so, you and I got to have a sit down, so. The Ivy Football Association, thanks for this awesome night. I know I'm not supposed to know about it, but I know there was some shenanigans, so I really thank you for my support of my nomination. We all know what that's about. Congrats and thanks to all the honorees. I'm really so proud to be part of this whole class. I feel like there's only a few degrees of separation between all of us. I know many of you. I respect many of you. On your way to a Super Bowl, everybody here has done so many great things for Ivy football. I only have one comment. Jimmy Pitaro, head honcho at ESPN. I love the fact that we're on ESPN Plus, but can you throw us a bone and give us a little money for our media rights? Come on. Thanks to all the Princeton athletics and Princeton football people here. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention some Princeton people who were meaningful to me who have passed since the last IFA dinner. Royce Flippin, the longtime Princeton AD. Dick Malacray, our longtime trainer who kept me on the field for 4 years with tape and braces. And finally, Coach Bob Cacciola, who recruited me directly and became a mentor of mine and a close friend for over 50 years. On to the current Princeton crews here tonight. I just can't thank them all enough. You heard Coach Bob Surace is here, great coach, great friend. His wife Lisa's with him. She's my teammate up in the stands when we watch the games. I can tell you this, folks. We've had a couple of down years, but with Bob Surace at the head of our team, we will be back. I guarantee you that. Coach Steve Verbit. It's hard to believe that I actually played so long ago that I didn't play for Steve Verbit. He's been there since the Ice Age, I think. Steve Simcox, I said he's the perennial head of the PFA. All the PFA members, current and past, thanks for everything you do for the program. John Mack, our director of athletics, thanks for coming. Keep up the great work, John. Then there's the one and only Hank Towns, who's here tonight. Now this guy originally from his cage in his equipment room, has been the inspirational leader of Princeton football for over 50 years. Hank, thank you so much for coming out. There's friends of mine here from all parts of my life. They were drawn into Princeton football through me, whether they liked it or not. Finally, my business friends, there's a table over there that Dak mentioned. My partner, Steve, who you saw in the video, another partner of mine, Freddie. We're brothers for life. Then there's Phil and Boomer. We're going to have a contest later on. Whoever can tell those two apart wins. Ronnie Darling, the Yaley, sitting at a Princeton table. Ronnie, thanks a lot. There's a long-time lawyer of ours, Ronnie Creedman, who's a baseball catcher at Brown as well. So finally, I didn't forget my family, Dorothy, my wife for 41 years, my daughters, my son-in-laws, my nephews, and my brother and sister-in-law are all here. My brother played football at Brown, but he not so fast. He did tell me to go to Princeton, so. So this family has encouraged me and supported me with my Princeton craziness. I mean, I literally have closets and closets full of black and orange. And, you know, we're when there's an away game and I'm at a wedding or a dinner, you know, I get the phone under the table and, you know, I'm streaming that thing. And they've forgiven me for all that. I just can't get away from it, can't get enough. I hope I haven't forgotten anyone with the thank yous. So I can go on a long time about Princeton, how it's played an incredible role in my life and why I'm so dedicated to the university. But I'll try to get through this real quickly. It wasn't because we won so many championships and had such an outstanding record when I was on campus. In fact, we were very mediocre at best. However, the bonds that we formed are with me to this day. Luckily, we missed the military draft back then by 1 year. We didn't have to serve in Vietnam. But playing Ivy League football taught me about sacrificing for the team, working my ass off to be the best I could be so that I could have the honor of wearing a Princeton uniform and represent that prestigious university. I so enjoyed going to battle with my teammates. When we started our freshman year, we started with over 100 players. We wound up with 14 seniors on the team, so it was a real grind. But like I said, I learned to work my ass off to make myself better. As for my career, I got my first job through my contact with Royce Flippin, who I mentioned was our AD. I heard somebody tonight say that they got their job through Royce Flippin as well. So what goes around comes around. When I got to the business at the NFL, the conversation sort of went like this. You're a big guy. Did you play football in the NFL? And I'd say, no, but I played in college. They'd say, where? And I'd say Princeton, and then, you know, I'd get the hairy eyeball like, oh, you're not such a big dumb jock, you got a brain. So it helped me in my career. Time after time, I'd check people's backgrounds before I went into a meeting to prepare for the meeting, and I'd see that folks were either from Princeton or from the Ivy League football, and we'd immediately hit it off. When I eventually left the NFL, the same thing happened. My partners were sick and tired of hearing that we were meeting people from the Ivy League or people from Princeton, and we did tons of business together. Ultimately, Princeton has always given so much to me personally, the longtime friendships that started almost 50 years ago. And in Princeton circles, we call that the brotherhood. Now, I swear, I think I was the first one to call it the brotherhood, but Steve Verbit might disagree with me. So that brotherhood for me includes the enjoyment I get every Saturday in the fall, whether I'm at Powers Field or somewhere around the world. The incredible student athletes I meet each and every year on the field and in the locker room. They stay in touch with me through the years. It's nothing like being in a locker room after a victory, hearing the chants of Our House and the players singing the Princeton fight song. These are the reasons I'm here tonight, why I'm so dedicated to Princeton football. But before I end, there's also the brotherhood we also all feel here tonight. That's the Ivy League brotherhood. How great is it that we're finally getting the chance to play in the FCS championship? You know, some people here remember that was one of the original objectives of this organization, so I'm so glad about that. But tell me, even though we go out and we compete on the field, isn't everybody in this room going to root for the Ivy League champ to go all the way in the FCS championship, right? with that, I'll wrap up. I really thank you from the bottom of my heart. Remember, live life every day, and go Tigers. Thank you.
We will do one more recognition now, and then you'll be able to enjoy your dinner, and we'll come back and wrap up with our honorees. Our next honoree this evening, from Columbia University, class of 1988, Nick Leone. At Columbia, Nick was a four-year member of the football team, three-year varsity letterman. He was a versatile player, wide receiver, punt returner, kick returner, and as the student part of the student athlete, he excelled as well. Consistently earned a place on the Dean's List, twice was awarded the Class of 1913 Football Cup, which is presented annually to the varsity player with the highest scholastic average. If you meet Nick, you'll hear him talk on the video in just a few moments, and he stresses how much he learned as a Columbia football player, and even talks about the fact that there were some hard seasons, difficult seasons when he was playing. And he emphasizes the notions, the lessons he learned of hard work and keep moving forward. Shh, just a few moments, folks, please. Thank you. He took those lessons and used them to craft an extraordinarily successful business career in finance. He started at Drexel Burnham in the late 1980s, continued at Salomon Brothers in the early 1990s, and in 1995 he joined a relatively young firm, I've heard of it, called the Blackstone Group. During his 20-year career at Blackstone, the firm would, as you know, eventually become one of the most recognized and successful financial firms globally. Nick remains passionately involved in the Columbia community, a member of the Board of Visitors Athletics Leadership Committee. He's received Columbia's John Jay Award for Distinguished Professional Achievement, as well as the Athletics Alumni Award. And throughout the course of his exceptional journey of success, the common theme for him has always been that he never loses sight of Columbia and its values. Let's take a look.
Columbia football has seen its fair share of tough times in modern football, from a 44-game losing streak to Ivy League championship season this past 2024 year. Resilience has been the story of Columbia football. That is also the story of Nick Leone, to never give up.
Who knew 41 years later we'd be sitting here at Columbia University talking about a relationship that started in 1983, Cardinal Gibbons High School in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, where you were a football player and I was a young transplanted New Yorker trying to coach a high school football team.
I mean, I think that what football did for me was it conditioned me to work hard, don't quit, keep going, and I used that same formula in my post-football career. I used it, I followed that for my business career. I followed it for raising my family.
So Nick, quite a storied career. Drexel, Salomon, and Blackstone. Of course, Blackstone, one of the most successful financial advisory firms in the world. And you were partnered at 36 years old and were there for 25 years with tremendous success. What do you attribute that to in relation to your years at Columbia and through football?
The Columbia degree, the Columbia education facilitated my ability to get a job on Wall Street at those three firms. And I would also say, probably most importantly, is that the lessons that I got out of the Columbia football experience, particularly work hard, don't quit, keep going, despite struggles, despite setbacks, despite disappointments, just keep going, work hard. Those lessons directly impacted my success in my career.
You were the epitome of a scholar athlete here at Columbia. Not only were you the class of 1913 Football Cup two-time winner for the highest GPA in the team, You went on to become a John Jay awardee on behalf of Columbia College in 2015, which also is given out to Columbia alumni for distinguished professional achievement. So we knew back then, in the late 80s, despite you being a good football player, that your intellect and your hard work and your ethic were going to drive you to success professionally, which you've done.
And I would say that, again, the experience that we had playing football, specifically the struggles that we had during those years, directly attributable to the success I had off the field. And you know what I got out of Columbia football, I didn't get championship rings, I didn't get a lot of victories, but what I did get was, number one, a lot of great friendships, and number two, just sort of an attitude of work hard, right? Life is difficult, just work hard and keep going. And if you do, and if you get a little lucky, good things can happen.
Exactly. You punch the clock, you do the work, and that's what the coaches at Columbia these days are telling the kids. Punch the clock, do your job, focus on what you can control, and if we do that in life, things will generally work out for me.
I agree.
Whenever I see Nick, we often talk about Columbia athletics, we also talk about our work in business and finance, but the thing he most wants to talk about is his family and Grace and the kids and how proud he is of each of his kids. Interestingly, they all did follow him to Columbia. They're all in different areas of academic and professional success. But whenever I see Nick, the thing he is unequivocally most eager to talk about is his and Grace's 3 extraordinary kids.
It always feels great to be back at Baker Field, doesn't it?
Oh yeah. It's great to be back, even though it's about 30 degrees out and pouring rain, and we're walking around outside. But this is home, right? It always feels great to be back here.
A lot of blood, sweat, and tears on this field, and a lot of great relationships and friendships.
There's a lot of great memories.
And we left it all out there, didn't you guys?
Yes,
indeed. Yes, indeed.
You know, it always feels so great to be back here, right? This place that taught me so much, gave me so many opportunities. No matter where I go, no matter how many different places I've been to, this place will always be a very significant part of who I am, and it always feels great to be back here.
From Columbia, Nick Leone.
The benefit of being in New York and home field advantage. I know that none of these videos tonight will have any exaggerations, but I'm telling you, in that video, it was pouring rain and it was 30 degrees and I was freezing beyond belief. Anyway, I will be very brief. I am unbelievably appreciative for this award. I'm also extremely appreciative and grateful to be part of this brotherhood, this fraternity, this group of accomplished people that share one thing, we share a lot in common, but we share something in common, which is a lot of us played Ivy League football at 8 unbelievable institutions. And as I said in the video, I'm not going to be repetitive, but I got a lot out of my experience playing football at Columbia. I didn't get victories, I didn't get championship rings, but I did get unbelievable friendships, people that have traveled from all over the country to be here. And so again, I'm so appreciative of the lessons that I got out of that experience and those friendships. A couple very quick thank yous. You met my high school football coach, Chris Berman, who's sitting over there, who did something very important to me when I was a high school senior in Fort Lauderdale, Pompano Beach, Florida, which is he directed me to Columbia University and specifically New York City, and those were obviously life-changing for me. I have my family sitting up here who made unbelievable sacrifices during my business career. When I went to work, I traveled, I commuted, I worked very long hours, and they were unbelievably supportive. So again, thank you guys. I'm extremely appreciative of this, and thank you.
With Nick Leone and an Ivy championship, Columbia has a lot to be proud of tonight. Congratulations, Nick.
Ladies and gentlemen, please give it up for the Boomer, Brown's Chris Berman.
That would be a clue. Don't eat so fast, it's steak. But how was your dinner, all right? Or how is it, okay? We got some hardware to dole out, so hopefully you can eat and quietly. How's that? By the way, this ballroom, and Roger will remember, we used to have the NFL draft in here. I know that doesn't seem possible, but I did about 10 of them in here. And there were just a few fans up here, and brings back some interesting memories. Just an aside. You might have heard that the Kansas City Chiefs are trying to win 3 straight Super Bowls. Whoa, 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 whoa. So I know that's from Philadelphia, right? I could tell. The Eagles have been flying. I can just imagine Philly fans 5 nights on Bourbon Street. I mean, the thought even makes me nervous. It'll be interesting to see. Have a good time if you're going. But back to the Kansas City Chiefs, because in case you don't know, 8 teams before the Chiefs have tried to three-peat. The legendary teams of the NFL. Lombardi's Packers, Knowles Steelers, the 49ers, Dolphins. I mean, I'm going to leave 1 or 2 out. Obviously, the most recent, but it was 20 years ago, was New England. Denver had a shot. Obviously, Dallas did. None of them made it, as you know. None of them have made it back to the Super Bowl. So the Chiefs have already done something that none of those legendary teams have ever done. It's history. I majored in history at Brown. Give them the nod. Well, why did I bring this up? Well, the man that I'm about to introduce is the president of the Kansas City Chiefs, Mark Donovan, all right? I feel like Rodney Dangerfield. I'll tell you, it's a rough room. Mark's been at Kansas City 16 years. He came to the Chiefs in 2009. He oversees all things Chiefs. Obviously, the team, Arrowhead, the Hunt Family Charities, the foundation, the concerts in the stadium, the draft in Kansas City a couple of years ago, which was a home run, upcoming FIFA World Cup. I mean, it's a lot on his plate. And all those events have brought what I'm told is almost $1 billion to in the economy of the Kansas City Metro. So, Mark's been in the league, the NFL, 26 years. Before that, calm down, Philly. Don't you remember? He was senior vice president of the Philadelphia Eagles. All right, come on. Oh, so now they don't show up. I get it. Worked in the league office. Well, you'll see a lot of it in the film. We knew about Mark at Brown a long time ago. Starting quarterback in the late 80s, he was as good as we'd seen. He set records, many of which have been broken by our current coach, James Perry. Mark had 2 degrees at Brown, which I can guarantee you was 1 more than me, all right? Maybe 1.5. Maybe most impressive. I don't know if he wants this out there. I'm going to investigate this during the film. But I'm told that Mark introduced Travis to Taylor. Now I don't, but think of the Chiefs jerseys that are being sold in Singapore. I mean, it's brilliant. I'm going to investigate that fact while we take a look at our honoree from Brown.
I'm a Leach fan, and I know this for a fact. Without football, I wouldn't have gotten to Brown. So I think football has played such a huge part of my life and been both a point of strength and a point of guidance for me. And Brown was probably the first real tangible evidence of that. One of the biggest risks I ever took was trusting my good friend George Pine, Brown class of '89, who convinced me to come on down to Atlanta and start an agency with him.
We were good friends in college, and we're in the same industry, the sports business, and it's been exciting to watch Mark achieve. He's been in the league office at the NFL and the NHL, and then of course with the Andy Reid at the Eagles, and now at the Chiefs, and this incredible success that he's had for 20 years. I mean, just like it was at Brown, he was an incredible quarterback. He was one of the best quarterbacks in the history of Brown football, and we've got some good ones. But also the equally impressive, and to me, the thing I take most pride in just watching him is just the way he does things. And he's a good guy. He's a family man. He's a loyal friend. He's the kind of person that you want to aspire to be. By the way, I knew that when he was 19 years old, and it's exactly the way it's played out his whole life.
Mark was always, true to himself, true to his teammates. He always was himself. He never tried to be anything that he wasn't. Did a great job. That's what I think a great leader is. And led by example, and people can emulate him and the way he worked and his, professionalism. Even back then as a college player, he was great, and the guys rallied around him.
I had the opportunity to work at the NFL, had the opportunity from that to work for the Philadelphia Eagles, and now that led to the opportunity to be here in Kansas City. And things have not always been easy. And in addition to my support that I've gotten from Brown, there's been one other pillar in my success, and that's been my wife, Kathy. She's been through the toughest days. And I would tell you that some of the toughest days I experienced were here in Kansas City. When we first got here, things were not great. We were not a very good football team. We were not a great business operation. And there were really some dark days. And she was always there, building me back up, supporting me, getting me to go back out there. And I appreciate that. The team that we put together on the business side had put all that work in, and were able to create that success so that when Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce came on board, we can maximize both sides.
So I've got a ton of respect for Mark Donovan, not only as an executive, but also as a human being. He's got a great way about him. You can tell he was a quarterback in college, and he kind of incorporates that ability to make everybody around him a little bit better, and thus makes our organization that much better.
When I got here, one of the things that Clark and the family shared with me was how important it was to be an active part of this community, to be someone as a leader who took an active role, and to hopefully create an organization of people who do that. Media experts and the NFL draftniks said that maybe the Chiefs' run was over, and maybe the division was just too tough. The guys behind me proved the naysayers wrong. And lastly, we are all particularly proud of how they united our community. As the president said, sports has the power to do that. And we're proud that they united Chiefs Kingdom, a fan base that has proven their reputation as the most passionate in all of football. Ever true to me means having your back and knowing that everyone in that community has each other's back. And I experienced that with my teammates. I always knew and always took strength from the support that I knew because we're ever true.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mark Donovan.
Thank you. Appreciate that. First, I want to thank the IFA and Brown Football Association for continuing this great tradition and selecting me to be part of its history. It's an honor to be selected, even more so to be part of this special class. Obviously, congratulations to all the other honorees. Some of this was touched on in the video, but for the last 25 years, I've had the privilege of being part of the National Football League. And for the past decade plus, I've been a part of one of the more successful organizations in sport. And I know I wouldn't be where I am today, and I wouldn't be the person I am today without the lessons that I learned at every level of the game of football. I also know that I wouldn't be here without the experiences that I had and the support that I received from Brown University. Building a career in sports is a challenging path. At the very beginning, you're doing it for the love of the game and not much money. I want to thank those individuals who supported me along the way. Classmates, like the guys at apartment 12L here in New York City, who I slept on their floor and then their couch. George and Aline Pine, who, when we started this little business in Atlanta, my first apartment was actually their office in their 2-bedroom apartment. And then Rich and Lori Caputo. When I first moved to New York, I lived with them and their newborn. So talk about friends and support. Those guys, I know this, I wouldn't be here today without them. I want to just take a second and thank Commissioner Goodell. When I worked at the league, you always made time for me. And sometimes it was so I could share some dreams, and sometimes it was so I could ask for advice. And sometimes you called me so you could kick my butt and straighten me out. But I learned so much from you, and I appreciate the support of my career then and even to this day. Your attitude towards me is something I've tried to mirror to others who have come to me for help. So I appreciate you, man. My teammates and my classmates, first of all, thanks for being here tonight. You guys are a special, special group. The reality is that I think about half of the table are in the same group that I am, which is without football, we don't end up at Brown. But the game of football gave us that opportunity. And damn if we didn't take full advantage of it. We learned the value of hard work. We learned to hold each other accountable. We fought for each other. We fought with each other. I don't think there's a group that I've ever been a part of that counted on each other more in the good times and in the bad. And what makes this group really, really special is we all still count on each other exactly the same way today. Thank you for that, guys. So I will end with this. I was a freshman, public high school kid from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Thank you. When I walked through the Van Winkle gates. And at that point, I didn't dream I'd ever be at a place like this, being honored by an organization like this. At that point, I never dreamed that in a couple days, I'll be boarding an airplane to head to New Orleans to hopefully part of NFL history. But I know this, without the game of football and all it's taught me, and without Brown University and everything it's done to support me, I wouldn't be here today. And for that, I'm grateful. Go Bruno, ever true.
When Kevin Stefanski played defensive back for the Penn Quakers, it's a home game, huh? Franklin Field, they were pretty good, as in damn good, really damn good. 2000, 2002, 2003, his senior year when Kevin was the team captain, those 4 years, they won the Ivy title 3 times. 4-year league record, 26-2. Hello? The last 2 seasons, a perfect 7-0. Nice to see Coach Al here tonight. I saw him earlier. Kevin's success in the NFL coaching has also been pretty damn good. Longtime assistant with the Minnesota Vikings. He was the quarterback coach, you might remember this, when a quarterback named Case Keenum, in the playoffs, authored the Minneapolis Miracle to Stephon Diggs down the right side on the last play of the game in the playoffs. They beat the New Orleans Saints. Quarterback coach, okay? After 2 more seasons in 2020, the Cleveland Browns came calling and named him their head coach. First season, pretty damn good. Turned a 6-win team into an 11-6 team, leading them to their first playoff berth since 2002. First playoff win since 1994. Those were the old Cleveland Browns, all right? He led them to their first in Pittsburgh, where they never win, right? And they did it there. So pretty damn good. He was voted Coach of the Year again in 2023 when Cleveland again made the playoffs at 11-6, starting 5 different quarterbacks. Pretty damn amazing. The Philly boy made good. Take a look.
5 seconds remaining. Fields back to pass. Time's run out. He's going to look. He's going to watch. It's going down to the end zone. Knock it down. The ball is intercepted. It's intercepted. Ball game over. Browns win. Browns win. Let's go. That ball was knocked down.
When we stick together, we got a good football team. Every single one of these, they count as one, but we get to stack them, okay? We're going to stack them, and we're going to stick together.
Kevin was obviously a standout player while he's been his time at Penn, team captain, leader of the defense, and it was great to see how Kevin has grown throughout the years, obviously his time at Penn, in the NFL, and obviously being an NFL head football coach and all the success that he's had.
Yeah, Coach Priori was my position coach, my defensive coordinator. We spent an awful lot of time together over those years. I learned a lot about football from Coach Priori that I still use to this day. And he's another guy. He's a Penn lifer. He's got red and blue running through him. So he really showed me the ropes as a player, and certainly I took a lot from him that I use to this day as a coach.
You know, one of our, we called him a coach, but it was Coach Staffieri, Coach Lake. I know Kev loved Coach Lake, and Coach Lake would always drive around in this football helmet trying to get students and everyone pumped up for the games. And I remember times when Kevin would be in that helmet with Coach Lake driving around, and it just showed how even if he wasn't on the field playing, he was still connected with the team.
Yeah, so Coach Dan Lake Staffieri was very important to me in my years at Penn. He was our spirit coordinator, I believe was his title, but he was so much more than that to us. And he was just a special person. And I think when you're talking about the Ivy League, or you're talking about teams of any sort, you need characters. You need people that keep it light, people that encourage everybody and make coming to work and doing whatever you're doing a worthy cause. And Coach Lake was that for me.
Yeah, so the Bill Willis Coaching Fellowship came about, because of an idea that Kevin had. We've long been champions of having a very diverse working group across the coaching staff and football operations. And Kevin thought it would be a great idea to develop a fellowship for minority coaches in the namesake of one of our historic Browns players. So it's something that he developed, really in year one. And it's been a great legacy addition to our organization.
It's a perfect night for football. The lights are on, so when the sun starts to set, the kids will be playing under these lights like our players do. But for Michelle and I, we're just thrilled to be here and looking forward to a really, really fun evening.
I hope, like in any team sport, that they just learn camaraderie, the getting out here, getting to do a game, playing a game they love.
Bottom line is this, what we're trying to do is give back. And the idea behind keepers is you are your brother's keeper, you are your sister's keeper, and ultimately we're trying to look after those kids in our community, the ones that need us to look after them the most.
He's a very small portion that has gotten better looking and better hair with age. So now he's like Mr. GQ on the sideline, and you go to some of the games and there's women holding up posters with his face, "Will you marry me?" So I definitely get a good kick out of that. And I'm sure his wife gets annoyed, but it's fortunate for her as well. So,
if there's 110 lockers in the locker room, I don't think there's a single guy in that 110 or maybe 200 and something over 4 years who's surprised either that Kevin's a head coach or that he's had the success he's had.
And I think back to those years, and I think back to those teams we had. We weren't sometimes the most talented team, but we outworked people. We found a way to get it done. And selfishly, as a defensive player, I thought we played a brand of football that I'm proud of, and certainly that I hope to take with me as a coach.
Penn's honoree Kevin Stefanski.
Thank you. It's very strange to be honored in any way right now. We won 3 games this year. 3. We basically Cornell'd the season. Thank you for recognizing me in this year's category of extremely average player that went on to become an NFL head coach. I wish I was half the player that Dick Jauron was. He played for 8 years in the NFL. I couldn't have lasted 8 minutes into the first practice, but Dick Jauron, amazing person. It's great to be here. It's great to be here to celebrate Ancient 8 football with all of you tonight. It's an amazing collection of storied programs in Columbia. I love my time at Penn. I'll be around Cleveland and somebody will say, "Hey, what was it like playing for that legendary coach, Joe Pitaro?" And I always tell them it was great. But in all seriousness, I did play for a legendary head coach, Al Bagnoli. Coach Bagnoli was a stone-cold winner. He pushed us hard. He surrounded himself with great coaches. He taught me how to absolutely wear out the officials on game day. I think some of them got out of the profession after a Penn game. I also played for Ray Priori, our current coach, who was my position coach and my defensive coordinator. He sparked my interest in coaching. I do, to this day, have my blue binder, our playbook that you handed me in the summer of 2000. I also you saw on the video, Coach Dan Lake Stafiri. He was, in his words, an athletic supporter. When he had his heart attack, he wrote a letter to the team from the hospital, which was posted in the locker room. It started, "I'm enjoying poor health." He also told a lot of banquet jokes, so if you'll oblige, how do you get a Harvard guy off your front porch? You pay him for the pizza. I picture Ryan Fitzpatrick in this scenario. I don't know if you guys did or not, Fitzy. It's been great to reminisce with some of my old teammates. I was fortunate to be on 3 Ivy League championship teams. None of them shared. I don't know what this shared thing is. We were well coached, we played hard, and we won a lot of football games. We also had a lot of fun off the field, but we did it together. I've heard many an NFL player talk about what he misses the most when he retires. And it's always the same thing, the locker room, being around the guys. I feel the same way. That's what I miss. What don't I miss? I don't miss winter workouts. I don't miss the old turf at Franklin Field that I'm still pulling out of my elbows and knees. I don't miss the training room where I spent most of my time. I wasn't a good player. I was the player that, quote unquote, got everybody lined up. That was my dominant trait as a player. I was basically a kindergarten teacher. And if you knew some of my teammates, you would really understand that analogy. The more removed I am from my playing days, the easier it is for me to admit that I wasn't a very good player. My memory of my playing days is not like a fine wine, it's like a milk. While I wasn't a great player, I do hope that I was a great teammate. I do hope that the guys I played with consider me someone who pushed them, sometimes pulled them, encouraged them, and ultimately gave everything that I had, which, like I mentioned, wasn't very much. But I did strive to do better than my best. Thank you. Have a great night.
Bear with me for a sentence or two, Jim. Don't you want to play for him? Yes. Jimmy Pitaro. He was a three-sport standout up the road in high school at Westchester. When Cornell landed him to play running back and wide receiver, some thought it might be possible that he could break the records of Ed Marinaro. Now, Ed, wait a minute, where's Ed? Where is he? Where? Go along with it. Go along with it. He's my boss. I'm not an idiot, all right? Thank you, pal. Injuries curtailed Jimmy's career really with the Big Red before it got started, but it only opened the door for a truly intriguing and wide-ranging career. Law, then Yahoo, although sometimes they could be used in the same sentence. Then, that didn't get a laugh? Really? Then 15 years ago, he joined the Walt Disney Company. In 2018, he came to us at ESPN when he was named president at a time when, frankly, we needed new leadership. I'll leave it at that. I'll be honest, okay? As an ESPN lifer, this is the first president that we ever had from outside our cozy Bristol, Connecticut campus. And we were slightly, what's the right word, pensive, right? We were pensive. That changed quickly when we got to meet Jimmy for the first time, because it happened to me. Hi, how are you? My name's Jimmy. I mean, he's the new president. He came from Disney. Oh, he's a regular guy. He said that in one sentence. He's one of us. You had us at hello. Jimmy's job is not easy. Cable and TV sports, viewership, consumer habits, they're changing at rapid pace, as everybody knows. Vision and a plan ahead while securing and staying true to our core business is walking a very fine line in whatever field you're in. And that's what we're doing. Thanks to him, we're doing just that. At the forefront, in my eyes, was repairing a somewhat fraying relationship with the NFL. I think the commissioner would agree that that's ancient history right now. We view ourselves as pioneers at ESPN of the TV business and the sports business, past, present, and future. But you don't achieve that by just saying it. Take a look.
Coach Noyes was probably the biggest reason why I decided to go to Cornell. I felt like he was a smart guy, he was a passionate guy. I connected with him, and I was just very impressed by him.
Jimmy and I have a common bond. as do hundreds of other Cornell football players, and that common bond is Coach Pete Noyes. Coach Noyes is loved by all people who know him, and many, many former Cornell football players. And Coach Noyes wrote a nice note in honor of Jimmy getting this award, and I'd like to read that note from Coach Noyes. My congratulations to Jimmy Pitaro on being named the 2025 IFA Honoree representing Cornell University. Jimmy stood out as a promising football athlete and academic student from Edgemont High School in Scarsdale, New York in 1987. I had the pleasure of recruiting and meeting his wonderful parents at his home visit. Jimmy represented himself with mature enthusiasm and excitement to hear about Cornell University's football program and the academic opportunities. When Jimmy committed yes to Cornell, I told his parents I would be his parent away from home. And that began a personal, to this day, lasting friendship. Jimmy was a wide receiver, team player, and respected by his fellow teammates. Jimmy also excelled academically. I couldn't be more proud and excited to see Jimmy receive this honor. I have enjoyed watching Jimmy's post-Cornell career advance to this day as ESPN's president. Jimmy is a true friend with a wonderful family and Cornell Big Red football alumni. Love you and congratulations, Jimmy. Fondest regards, Coach Pete Noyes. And when you get a note like this from Coach Pete Noyes, it really means a lot. And so Jimmy should feel very proud that Coach Noyes feels this way about him.
So my closest friends in the world are actually the guys that I met in elementary school. The three of us went to elementary school, junior high school, and college together, and we still talk pretty much 7 days a week today.
What he inherited from his parents, they always knew right and wrong. Yeah. There was no gray.
100%. Jimmy's always had a really good moral compass. Even when we were younger, we were never, and we all talk about this all the time, how our group of friends has stayed close for so long.
I was a litigator in Manhattan for several years, really didn't like it. And I married an actress, and her career was taking her to the West Coast. And so I decided to go with her.
And we just packed our dog and our everything into a van and drove down the West Coast and settled in LA, where Jimmy very quickly got a job in-house in business affairs for a music startup called Launch.com.
So Jimmy went to work for my then first friend, then husband, Dave, when he'd started something called Launch, which was then sold to Yahoo and became Yahoo Music. And Jimmy started as the head of business affairs, but was one of the key people that helped build and grow that business. And then eventually, long after we lost Dave, took over and ran that for Yahoo. I was on the Disney board. Jimmy, by that point, was someone who was a personal friend, but also someone I really admired as a business leader. And I helped introduce him to Bob Iger and help recruit him to Disney. So he came into Disney working on digital properties and then eventually got what is, I think, his clear dream job, which is running ESPN.
It's been a little under 7 years that I've been doing this at ESPN. I will tell you that it's probably a period where there's been more transition than any period prior during the 45-year history of ESPN. And what I'm getting at is, of course, the transition to digital. And so the good news is that we've actually been leading here through more recently, starting in April of 2018, our investment in direct-to-consumer through ESPN+. But we still have a lot to accomplish, and the best example of that is us taking our primary networks and making them available over the top direct-to-consumer, and that's by far the #1 priority today at ESPN. Cornell was very, very good to me. And my whole focus, my mission is to pay it forward and do everything I can to support the school as best I can.
Okay, let's go.
Let's go.
All right, you want to go to dinner?
Well, I have a surprise. I got tickets to the Yankee game tonight.
It looks like it might rain.
Yeah, but you like that. We're good, remember?
Ladies and gentlemen, Jimmy Pitaro.
That was a good joke, good Cornell joke, Kevin. You know, as as you were up there, I was thinking to myself, you and I actually have something in common. We both got into Penn. So, Boomer, if there were a Mount Rushmore at ESPN, you would, without a doubt, be on it. And from the bottom of my heart, thank you for helping literally build the place that I call my professional home. And Jack, you're doing a fantastic job calling the games on ESPN Plus. Thank you for that. Thank you to our Ivy Football Association captains. Thank you to the Friends of Cornell Football Executive Board for the constant support and friendship. Thank you to the Ivy Football Association directors and officers for this amazing honor. And I want to congratulate my fellow honorees tonight. It really is a privilege to be included in this class with you all. I especially want to call out Coach Teevens, whose life and coaching career were celebrated in our ESPN film, The Buddy Way, which was produced by Peyton Manning, the team at Omaha, and Jane Skinner Goodell, who's here tonight. Thank you for being here tonight, Jane. And it actually just debuted on ESPN last night. I'm not sure there is a better representative of Dartmouth or of the entire Ivy League than Coach Teevens. And Peyton actually posted a story last night on ESPN, and he said, "You would have been lucky to know Buddy Teevens like my family did. You're fortunate if you ever come across someone like that in life." So please check out the film because it's really wonderful. I'm incredibly grateful to Cornell, the athletic department, and the football program. From my first recruiting trip at Cornell, the school has been very good to me, and I remain connected to the school. I speak there regularly. I chair my college's Dean's Advisory Board. I sit on the Cornell Council. I sit on the Alumni Sports Advisory Council, and I feel very privileged to do all of that. I've had the very good fortune of getting to know our athletic director, Nikki Moore. Nikki, where are you? You're doing a fantastic job, Nikki. Thank you for everything. And Coach Swanstrom, congratulations on a solid first season, and let's keep the momentum going, my man. I value our relationship with the Ivy League, and I value my relationship with Executive Director of the Ivy Group, Robin Harris. In fact, the Ivy media rights deal was the first deal that I did 7 years ago when I got this job at ESPN. I got there, we got that deal done. You can tell I had my priorities straight. And Frank, you're gonna get me in trouble tonight, but my CFO is here, but I will tell you, when the renewal comes up, we will make budget and we will get that license fee up for you a bit. I wouldn't be standing here if it weren't for one person, and that's my recruiting coach, Pete Noyes. As you saw, in 1987, Coach Noyes had my area, Westchester County, New York, and man, am I fortunate he did. I was being recruited by a few schools at the time, but no coach was as passionate as Coach Noyes was about Cornell, and none treated me and my parents better than Coach Noyes. And we spent a ton of time together, and my parents were very clear. They said, "Pete will take care of you." And that was certainly the case. Like so many others in the athletic department, Pete's an incredible advocate of Cornell and represents the school incredibly well. He's a class act in every way. All that said, I am very fortunate that tonight's award is not based on player performance. My playing career at Cornell was awful from the day I arrived on campus. Post-knee surgery, I was plagued by injuries and unknown medical ailments. I lost weight, I moved positions, I struggled time and time again. The program never gave up on me, but it just didn't happen for me. And failure takes a toll, especially when your identity is football and your friends and family are constantly asking you how it's going. I remember dreading going home and having to answer those questions. But those failures, they made me who I am today. I didn't realize it at the time, but being a part of that team, checking my ego at the door, it helped solidify the values that play a vital role in my life to this day. And looking back on my failure as a player, I grew to accept it, I grew to learn from it, and I grew to carry on. I realize now that you're often defined not by how you respond when things are going well, but when things are the most challenging. And I'm proud of how I dealt with that failure. My career now feels like somewhat of a symphony, but I will tell you, going through it, it was much more of a cacophony. So many ups, so many downs, probably more downs for me, but you learn from them and you persevere. Calvin Coolidge said, "Nothing in this world can take the place of persistence. Talent will not. Nothing is more common than unsuccessful men with talent. Genius will not. Unrewarded genius is almost a proverb. Education will not. The world is full of educated derelicts. Persistence and determination alone are omnipotent." I'll wrap up with the words of Derek Jeter's dad when he was giving his son some advice on a speech. He said, "Derek, follow the 5 B's. Be brief, brother, be brief." So with that, I want to thank my ESPN colleagues who are sitting over here in the corner with whom I huddle regularly, our ESPN partners, some of whom are here with us tonight, including Commissioner Goodell. And by the way, how about this? How about the fact that MLB Commissioner Manfred, NHL Commissioner Bettman, NBA Deputy Commissioner Tatum, all Cornell grads? Not too shabby. I'd also like to thank my high school buddies who remain my closest friends, two of whom transferred to Cornell so we could be together, and they played 50s football. My mom and dad who supported me and loved me no matter what, even wearing my jersey at games when I was on the sideline with crutches. My sister Lara, by far the smarter one in the family, also a Cornell grad and the general counsel of Major League Baseball. My wife Jeannie, a Columbia grad. And the single best teammate on the planet, my 2 wonderful kids, Sean and Josie. Someone once said, "Success is being excited to go to work and excited to go home." And that's certainly the case with me. I hit the jackpot not just on the school I chose, but also in terms of colleagues, friends, and family, and I'm acutely aware of how fortunate I am. Thank you for this amazing honor, and go Big Red.
Great job, Jimmy. I don't mind saying this at the risk of embarrassing our next honoree. In my many, many years of covering the National Football League, Dick Jauron is one of my favorite people. I mean, maybe it's because I sat in the stands at the Yale Bowl while I was in high school and he was running the football for the Eli. He ran for almost 3,000 yards in 3 seasons, okay? Early 70s, that record stood to 2,000. That's over a quarter of a century. That's pretty good. Maybe it's because I watched his career as defensive back. Safety with the Lions, safety with the Bengals. Nope. We met while he was coaching. Probably we met when he was on the staff of Mike Holmgren with the Packers. Or maybe we met when he was on Tom Coughlin's staff with the Jaguars. But we met when he was head coach of the Chicago Bears. In 2001, Dick was named the NFL Coach of the Year when the Bears went 13-3. okay? Bears won the division title that year at 13-3. If you followed the Bears the last few decades, you know that that was no easy feat. Of course, Dick and I shared more time when he was head coach of the Buffalo Bills, because never did they try harder to circle the wagons in those years for Coach Jauron. Dick has never been a self-promoter, never. He promotes himself by the grace with which he handles himself and those around him, family, of course, and the same grace exhibited to everybody else. Let me turn this back over to my co-host, Jack Ford, who knew Dick before I did from being a teammate and spending a great amount of time with him at Yale. Jack.
Boomer and I had decided, since we both had that personal relationship with Dick, that we'd share some of our thoughts together. He mentioned I had the great good fortune to be a teammate and the better good fortune to be a friend of Dick Jauron's while we played and in the many years since. And what's interesting, all of you who have played this game, this greatest of all games, college football, you realize that you're not always absolutely sure what your teammates are going to turn into in later life. Sometimes you're pleasantly surprised, sometimes not especially pleasantly surprised. But you're not always sure. Even after practicing and playing for many years, you can get a sense. But I can tell you this confidently. And I know that Dick's teammates and friends and indeed his family would share in this. And that is that we knew from almost quite literally the moment we met Dick Jauron that he would be an extraordinary success in something, whatever he chose. He was that kind of a guy. He gets to Yale, and his accomplishments are legendary. Boomer mentioned 3,000 yards. That was in 27 games. Right? Back then we only played 9. The Ivies only played 3 varsity seasons. He was a 3-time first-team All-Ivy player. He was a first-team All-American. He was also a National Football Foundation National Scholar Athlete. He was, in his spare time, he was the captain of the Yale baseball team. I mean, talk about the athletic talent you're talking about here. And he went on to be inducted into the College Football Hall of Fame in 2015. When he graduated, this man who could quite literally have done anything in his life and have been extraordinarily successful, he decided that he would lead a football life. And he spent, we've heard, 8 years as a Pro Bowl player in the NFL. And then he decided he wanted to go into coaching. Now, for Dick, coaching was teaching. Coaching was still helping to develop young men. He was, in the best sense of the term, a player's coach. And he went on to be an accomplished defensive coordinator in a number of franchises. And then, as Boomer mentioned, head coach of 3 different teams in the NFL, including the NFL Coach of the Year in 2001. I think the interesting thing with all of that success, the thing that Mark Dick Jauron and his friends and teammates will tell you this first thing when they talk about Dick. They don't talk about his football accomplishments. They'll say he was indeed the most humble and self-effacing superstar that any of us have ever come across. I remember one year, I think it was Dick's junior year, my senior year, and Sports Illustrated wanted to come up to New Haven and do a big article about him. And he deferred. He said, I don't want the light to be on me. You know, it's my team that I'm concerned about. Can you imagine many people today, anybody, turning down what Sports Illustrated was back then to say, no, this is all about the team for me. He will, and these same teammates will tell you this, and friends, that as extraordinarily successful that he was as an athlete and as a coach, you will never, ever meet a better person than Dick Jauron. Let's take a look.
And I think that's the thing about life. I think you're looking for great teammates in your family and in your faith, your friends, and on your football team. And you owed your teammates your effort, and it had to be your best effort. And you did not want to let those people down. And that was the thing about sport, and sport at Yale, and Yale football particularly, that was critically important. It's that commitment to each other.
So coming from Yale and the tradition we have here, 151 years of football being played at a really, really high level. You went on to have incredible success here and then in the NFL and playing for some of the most traditional franchises, coaching and playing for franchises like the Lions and the Bears. Like, how did that experience at Yale influence your experience there?
I think the Yale experience influenced my whole life. I don't think it was just in the realm of sport. I think meeting the people here, because to me that's what the university is about. It's about the people that are at the university, the people you're in school with, your friends, your teammates. They all affected your life. So going to those franchises, I was pretty comfortable knowing that all I had to do was my best. And then failing or succeeding was okay.
Dick, here we are in the Yale Bowl. Back in 1972, we were playing Columbia. I had graduated by then. I was up in the stands watching. But not much time left on the clock. 87 yards to go. And everyone thought in the stands that Yale was going to throw the ball. But no, they pitched it to you. And you picked up the full 87 yards with a go-ahead touchdown.
Yale watching the clock. Here's the handoff to Jauron. Gets away from 3 tacklers. Now, one man to beat. He beats that man. Outraces everybody for the end zone. 87 yards with a touchdown, and Yale goes back out in front. An incredible run. Remember that play?
What I remember most about it was blocked very cleanly. And we had a good group of offensive linemen, and we had a great group of team players.
Well, is a team game. So naturally, anything that comes to one individual comes to not 11 or not 22, but 60 or how many people on that squad.
I don't consider these anything that belong to me personally. If there's one thing that I'm happy about, it's that we as a group did accomplish some goals and did break some records. So I think that's one thing that we do have.
He's just humble. I mean, you never know a thing about Dick Jauron unless you were privileged to know, 3-time Ivy League, first team, All-American, played captain of football, captain of baseball. You would never know that you'd never know about his 9-year pro football career either. I love the part where he would say, I thought for sure in the first 2 or 3 days of practice that I could figure out whether I belonged, and sure enough, he belonged. And you better believe he belonged. And Dick Jauron is one of the finest human beings you'll ever have the privilege of meeting.
Every Friday afternoon during the football season, my mom and dad would go to the Chicago Children's Hospital, and they would meet with kids and families. And he knew that he was an exciting part of their week, which I think was really cool. And beyond that, he maintained relationships. Some of those families ended up coming to games and being very close with my dad. Being involved in local food drives and all those different types of things that NFL organizations have in place, and you can just be a part of that. But I'm biased, but I do think that my dad took it a little bit further than others and did what was more than what was expected.
So it's been a long string of good luck with incredible people, and so many of them to thank, and I thank them all. I don't know what else there is. Friendships, marriage, family, life, work. why else do you do it? What are you looking for, you know? I think if you don't give all you've got, then you certainly missed a whole lot in your life.
You leave a lot to chance.
A lot to chance.
Unfortunately, Dick could get through anything and run through anything except a sudden under the weather. So he got here today and was planning on being here and just kind of got hit by something. And he clearly appreciates this. Asked family and Casey say a few words. If Dick was here, first of all, he'd be extraordinarily brief. Right? That's Dick Jauron. He would never talk about himself. How about this? Dick Jauron was voted the team MVP by the Cincinnati Bengals and never told anybody that. Had to find it out in the newspapers. Here's what Dick would do. He'd stand up here and he'd thank his family, his coaches and friends from Swampscott, Massachusetts, where he grew up. He would then thank everybody at Yale University, especially head coach Carm Koza, our coach, who's in the College Football Hall of Fame. He would thank his teammates and his friends, and he would talk about those whose paths crossed with him in the NFL. And he would talk about not what he did, but what he learned from them and what they all contributed to the lives of young men. So Dick Jauron, if he was here, he would be thankful. And it's as Tom Coughlin said, would never mention anything that he did himself. Casey asked me if I would just read the last 4 lines of a poem that was written to celebrate his induction into the College Football Hall of Fame back in 2015 by Dick's very close friend and our teammate, Paul Sortle. And there's a lot to this poem, and it's fabulous. And if you knew Paul when we were growing up playing, Paul's nickname was Full Go, right? Because what do you think? There was no such thing as a walkthrough in practice. And Paul went on to have great success. And I looked at this and said, who knew you were sensitive like this? And what he wrote was about Dick. You have always given your best, especially to those whom you love. Your family and friends are so blessed and are so very proud of our Hall of Fame athlete and all-universe man whose life effort reminds us of the way that you ran. On behalf of Dick Jauron, his family, teammates, and friends, he wants to thank all of you and the Ivy Football Association for this honor tonight. Dick Jauron.
When I think of Buddy, I really think about his commitment to what is best for the student athletes and to the Ivy League, as well as, of course, to Dartmouth. I am not supposed to have favorites in the Ivy League, and I don't often have favorites. And Buddy was absolutely at the top of my favorites list.
He's just an incredible person who happens to be a great football coach. And it shows in the success he's had and what he built at Dartmouth. But yeah, probably one of the big losses of my life is not having him there to bounce ideas off of.
I'll never forget, Buddy called me into his office one time and said, I want to hear your input. I want to hear what you have to say. You're a coach with a seat at the table, so you should act like the other coaches, you know, and feel empowered to do so. That's why you're here. And he always had those moments of just motivating and energizing and empowering people.
When I think about Buddy Teevens, after all the years I've been at Penn since 1987 and seen him throughout the years at Dartmouth and all the legacy he left at Dartmouth on the field and off the field in the betterment of football and all the Dartmouth student athletes, Buddy was definitely transformed Ivy League football.
Our next honoree from Dartmouth, Buddy Teevens. To make this presentation, we are delighted to invite up here a good friend of Buddy's, a Dartmouth football legend himself, Murray Bowden. Murray, the co-captain of the 1970 undefeated Dartmouth team, arguably the greatest Dartmouth team ever. Murray himself, a first-team All-American, and inductee of the College Football Hall of Fame. And one last thought before I turn it over to Murray, because he was also involved, and Jimmy mentioned the production, The Buddy Way, the documentary that was done. And I was able to see the screening of it last week, and I said to Peyton Manning afterwards, who was involved with this, and to Kirsten, documentaries can be difficult, but this one was able to capture the accomplishments of Buddy Teevens, capture the grief that still resonates among all those who knew him and loved him, and most important, was able to capture the majesty of a life well lived. So the Buddy Way is something that all of us can take messages from. Murray Bowden.
I know it's getting late, and it's not good being last, I do know that. But I will be as brief as I possibly can. First of all, I want to say, hey, Jack, great job. Chris, great job. You're professionals. And I want to congratulate all the honorees here tonight. I think this is a great room. It's filled with a lot of great individuals, teammates, and so forth, and you're the best of the best. Not necessarily football, I guess, right? But with lifelong achievements. And I think it's really a great honor. It's a great point in time to sort of sit back and, in a way, be proud, be very proud. So the Dartmouth honoree tonight is Buddy Teevens, the class of '79. My name is Murray, and I've been asked to speak on behalf of Buddy's family. His family is seated right here at the front. Could you just all stand up just a second, and so you can be recognized? Wonderful family. Buddy was a great football player. He won the Bushnell Cup his senior year, which is the award given to the most valuable player in the Ivy League. He was co-captain of the 1978 championship team, and that was only his beginning. He ultimately became a devoted husband, father, coach, mentor, innovator, and a visionary. In today's jargon, you would say he's a real-life influencer. And he did it always in motion toward a greater achievement. I first met Buddy and interviewed him at the head coach job back in 1987. Buddy ended up being the youngest head coach in the history of Dartmouth College, and he may have been the youngest head coach in the history of college football. I don't know. You may need to fact check me on that one. But anyway, when Kirsten asked me to speak on Buddy's behalf, of course, I said, yes, of course. But later I became a little concerned that my experiences and to share those here with you tonight wouldn't be really enough to reveal the great person that Buddy was, and I needed to bring in some other experiences and so forth to fully communicate the full breadth of life of Buddy Teevens. So indulge me as I recount the heartfelt reflections of those who shared at Buddy's celebration of life ceremony in Hanover last May. Hopefully you'll come to understand why we named that football stadium for him and why he is worthy of this posthumous award tonight. Let me start with the president of the Dartmouth College, Sion Vlock, who is a great president, incidentally. That's another story, but she's wonderful. She's wonderful. Go Sion. Let me just read these. Shortly after the news, this is in her own words, shortly after the news became official that I would be coming to Dartmouth, my assistant came in and told me I had a phone call. I was pretty sure it'd be a school administrator or an official or maybe even a reporter. And then she looked at me and said, "The football coach is calling." That was the first time I had the great joy of speaking with Buddy Teevens. Buddy called to tell me how excited I should be, how amazing the community that I was about to join, and how fired up he was to work with me and work together. In a word, it was awesome. I truly will never forget it, and how fired up I was to be working with him. When I hung up, I imagined how so many of his players must have felt after one of those big pep talks. She said I kind of felt like I was invincible, kind of capable of running through a brick wall or a defensive line, something like that. So, but as time went on, I realized that I wasn't so special because that was just Buddy. And it was just the natural kindness and consideration that he showed to everyone. Brother Sean Teevens, who was also a great football player and a hockey player, class of '82, and Sean, his brother, won the Alfred Watson Trophy for the best athlete at Dartmouth College. Buddy was a motivator, perhaps the best. He would convince us that all his ideas were the best. He convinced our younger brother, Timmy, that he should jump off the Powder Point Bridge. Timmy was petrified. Of course, Buddy led by example and jumped first. Timmy had no choice but to jump, and we all survived. Jimmy Eden, former teammate and lifelong friend. Buddy was the ultimate competitor. In 2007, at age 50 and a grandfather of 4, Buddy had a 20-day vacation coming to him. Most would take some time off and relax, but Buddy chose to fulfill a lifelong ambition to ride his bike across the country. He arrived in Hanover 19 days after leaving the West Coast, beating his goal by 1 day. He went directly to the Mary Hitchcock Hospital in Hanover, suffering from severe dehydration. Tim Murphy, Tim's here tonight, right? Yeah. Tim Murphy, Harvard, this is a good one. Harvard football coach and high school friend and teammate. Buddy was one of a kind. He was the toughest, hardest working, most natural leader, fiercest competitor, most loyal friend, and he, more than anyone, made this sport we love so much a safer one. And Buddy was a world-class wingman. When I was visiting him for Winter Carnival at Dartmouth College, when he was an undergraduate, he introduced me to a very, very attractive young woman. He told her that I would likely be drafted in the NFL, no way, and would likely win a Rhodes Scholarship to study in Oxford, England after my graduation, which was total fiction. He said I was perplexed as to what I should do, and he suggested that she should spend some time with me tonight trying to help me figure this out. How'd that come out, Coach? Archie Manning, Hall of Fame player, Manning Passing Academy, and Super Dad. Buddy and I worked together as we ran the Manning Passing Academy for 26 years. We never had a disagreement. That's because Buddy was more than a great coach, more than a leader, more than an innovator. He was a friend, a kind and decent man who always tried to do the right thing, and one of the best friends a person could ever have. Roger Goodell, Commissioner of the National Football League. Buddy Teevens inspired me to look outside my boundaries and believe what might be possible. In football, safety is paramount. We love this game and its players. We want to protect both. Coach T came to the table to make the game safer and ultimately better. Abram McQuarters, class of 17 Dartmouth player. God, he's a minister. God, we thank you for the days you gave Coach Teevens and the countless ways he used those days to make an impact too big to be measured. We mourn that we live today in a world without him, but we thank you for those days that you gave us. We ask that even in our hour of grief, you will help us be present and that we use these present moments to eat, drink, and bring joy into our days so that we too might make an impact that honors the days we've been given. Tony Pasteur's class of 10, Dartmouth football player. We all have our stories, our moments when we were able to count on Buddy. Mark Twain said, always do right. It will gratify some and astonish the rest. That to me is Buddy Teevens. Buddy changed and impacted lives by simply doing right. Right for his players, right for Dartmouth, right for the coaching profession, and right for football, and right for those he loved. I will be forever grateful for BT, my friend and coach. While we will never be able to fulfill his shoes, we should all strive to follow in his footsteps. And finally, Buddy, in his own words, be a great football player at football time, a great student at academic time, and a great person all the time. And it was a dark day when news of his passing spread across the country. But his life casts a bright light on this earth tonight and tomorrow. For those of us who knew him, he will always be in our hearts and our souls. Having Buddy in our lives has been and will continue to be a blessing. His memory is a guide for a life well lived. Well done, Buddy Teevens, well done. Thank you.
Nice. Danny, get your hair cut? What are you getting a little flash today? Did you put some gel in that thing? Nice work. Dan, did you get a haircut? No? Mose, what are you smiling for? Did you get another haircut? Damn, I want to be your barber, bud. Did you say you got a cold? Oh, pink eye. Let's keep that one a secret.
When you are looking for someone to not only be your football coach, but be, an important figure in their life for an extended period of time, especially these, years in college, you want to have someone who is going to care about you as a person and take the time to understand who you are, where you come from, and that's exactly how Coach T was.
Mac, all good? Mom and Dad out this weekend?
My dad had trial, so unless he gets out of it today early, then he'll probably be up to it tomorrow. Other than that, probably.
Yeah, give me a show on the computer.
Exactly.
How are the fellas? Okay, ready?
Yeah.
Hey, John, how's it going? How's your family? Like, those are such simple things to ask people, but it made them, feel like Buddy did really care, and he did care.
Jackson, anything new? Good job yesterday with the adjusting on the punt. Yeah. Making our calls right. I wish more coaches would open up a little bit. Some people can be angry all the time. Well, that's not our model here. I want them to be honest with people. I want them to be direct, hold people accountable. Wonderful lessons in life, sports. Putting a young person in a position to pay attention, to listen, to learn, to interpret. To have an opportunity to interact with such a wide and diverse variety of people. They have to work together. They've got to rely on each other, trust each other. To come together for a common goal.
Buddy was a big believer in growing the game of football, right? He was extremely innovative. He was hiring female coaches before anybody else was doing it. He created practices without tackling, right? He had these tackling dummies. He was an innovator.
My contract was about to end, and I made a decision that was radically out there. At Dartmouth, my approach was quite simply, hey, we're not going to hit. Decided that we were not going to tackle any longer in practice. When I announced it to my staff, there was an eerie quiet. They were waiting for a punchline, weren't sure if I was serious. And I reiterated, we're not going to tackle this spring.
Buddy was so far ahead of it than myself, quite honestly, than a lot of coaches in the league. He was a pioneer.
He was unafraid to disrupt a system that he didn't think was working or was right or could be better. And that is what he thought. He thought it could be better because we're not getting the viewpoint of 50% of the population, which is women. There might be very smart football women out there, and indeed there are.
He wasn't afraid of revolutionizing the game. But I don't think Buddy looked at it that way. I think he did it for the right reasons. He didn't do it to be the person to bring in women to coaching in Division I. He did it because it was expanding the talent pool. He thought it would make Dartmouth better.
And I've been very, very impressed. So impressed with her that I'd like to offer her a position with us this year. people ask me, why are you doing it? I'm hiring good coaches who happen to be female.
It's why he was such a special human. He saw things through a lens that the rest of us sometimes didn't. And that's who he was. He was a visionary. Like, he saw things so many steps beyond what everybody else saw. Changing lives, changing the game of football. Buddy Teevens was immortal.
Ladies and gentlemen, ask for one last round of applause for our 8 honorees tonight. I mentioned at the beginning of the night that it's a very special evening. Those of you who've been here before knew what I was talking about. I suspect that those of you who've joined us for the first time tonight now understand what we're talking about when we talk about Ivy League football and the values of the young men who play that game and what they become after with their lives. I want to thank you all for joining us tonight. We will look forward to seeing you again in 2 years. Have a good night.